Hi, friends. Thanks for your watching and your support. I am close to 15,000 views. That's really exciting. It's actually late here, and I can't sleep because I've been working on a project, and I figure I may as well share part of it. Um, as a person that's in recovery, with Celebrate Recovery, there is something called a testimony, and this is when someone shares a brief story, 12 to 17 minutes long, of how they got to the place where they are at in life today. Um, the wounds, the successes, just the bumpy ride along the way, and then getting into recovery. And a lot of times when people hear the term recovery, they think, oh, addiction to, say, alcohol or drugs, or food, perhaps, pornography or something, right? Um, but that isn't the only kind of recovery. Honestly, all of us, if we are paying attention to what has happened to us in our life, are working on recovery because we have been through things. And so I am writing my story, the short version of it, and it has made me think a little bit about things from the past. So I thought I would tell you about the first experience of personal discovery related to where I find myself today in life, um, how things happened in life for me. So, when I was in my 20s, I was living on my own and I was working at a coffee shop, had my own place. I had moved out because I had a family member that I had been living with who had a substance issue. And as a result of all of that, I started reading therapy and counseling books, thinking, like, I need to understand what's going on with me and what could be wrong with me. I read a book called Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud and Stephen Arterburn. It's a fairly well known book. And as I was reading it, they were just talking about how anger is a sign that some unspoken boundary is being crossed. Then I read a book called Safe People. And as I was reading that book, Safe People, I thought to myself, you know, I don't really cry. And I don't think that's normal. Like, rarely do I cry even by myself, and I definitely struggle with letting people see me cry. What is that about? At the same time, I was also working through my belief in God, questioning how I was raised, asking myself whether or not I had been raised in a cult. I don't believe that I was, but it was a worthwhile question to ask. And so I prayed and I was like, God, why don't I cry? What is this about? And I had a flash of a memory of myself um, in a sort of dark, garagey area, and that was about it. I think I saw my grandfather's face, and I was like, huh, that's weird. That's a weird answer. I don't know what that means. Fast forward, and at this time I was about 22. Fast forward to 25, I am living in Tacoma, Washington, and I'm working with a mission organization. And I am helping with creating a meal. This organization helped homeless. We regularly had a dinner every Sunday. And my job, and I was tasked to do this job of slicing the Hawaiian rolls, the like long flat thing of Hawaiian rolls, with a knife so that they could be buttered in bulk. And one thing I failed to mention is that for the majority of my life, I was perfectionistic. I struggled with anxiety, but I wouldn't have known that it was anxiety because it was normal to me, and being overly particular and sort of demanding perfection was fairly normal in my family and in my world. And so I really didn't notice that my habits might not have been typical or healthy. So, going back to Tacoma, Washington, I am slicing the Hawaiian rolls, and it is just like wobbly. And I am in my mind like panicking, stressing out, seriously stressing out. And I'm just like, oh my God, I can't, screwing everything up. I might have mumbled to myself. Someone outside of me noticed that I was having a meltdown over slicing Hawaiian rolls. And they said to me, hey, Amanda, behind you are like over 20 bags of donated Hawaiian rolls that are free. And if you screw this batch up, there are more behind you. It's not even a big deal. That was the first time in my life when someone was a mirror and they reflected to me that my obsessive perfectionism and extreme anxiety over slicing Hawaiian rolls was probably not normal and maybe not okay, maybe not healthy. So I was like, oh my gosh, I think there's something wrong with me. It just was this light bulb moment for me that maybe this isn't normal and that people don't have panic attacks over slicing Hawaiian rolls that don't turn out perfectly. In this particular place that I was at, they had two services, an early service and then a later service. And I decided I was going to go skip the service and I was going to go up to what they have is called a prayer room. And I went and I was praying. I was like, okay, God, so I'm obviously not okay. There's something wrong with me. What is it? Like, why am I this way? Why am I this way? And I had already had lots of lessons along the way in the last 3 years that were helpful and healing. But this was, its day had come, this particular struggle I had. So instantaneously, I had a flash of that memory from my apartment, but I had the entire memory. I saw myself as a kid outside in the backyard of my grandparents' house, enjoying the sunshine. And I remembered my grandfather being so angry with me. I didn't know why. I didn't know what I had done. I didn't know why I was in trouble, but his tone and his demeanor said I had done something. I remember him grabbing me, like hooking my arm and kind of dragging me into his very large workshop garage that was dark. And he proceeded to discipline me in violent anger. And I was about 4 at this time. And I remembered the feelings. I remember like feeling scared. I remember the darkness. I remember just stuff. I remember stuff. And then I remember him sort of like saying, go and play and don't be bad again. And as I walked by the piano in the basement, I was thinking to myself, don't ever mess up again. Like, be perfect. Because if you're not, something bad will happen to you. And when you're not, bad things will happen to you. Now, I didn't know what I did. All I knew is I wasn't good enough. I wasn't perfect enough. I wasn't obedient enough. And that started a pattern from that time forward of always needing to do things right and perfectly. And I had no idea that this extreme anxiety and fear that I had was because I was afraid that something would happen whenever I wasn't perfect. And the truth is that when I did things perfectly, bad things happened. When I did things imperfectly, bad things didn't always happen. But I developed a belief system that I lived by. And in that dark prayer room, alone by myself, God showing me that it wasn't my fault, that I was safe, and that I didn't deserve what happened to me. I forgave my grandfather. I accepted the truth that, that I don't have to be perfect. And this is something I worked on and continue to peel away the layers of the onion, so to speak, for another, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And even as I've dealt with the PTSD from DV, I've peeled back even more layers from what I experienced, what happened, family habits and patterns. But that particular day, my perfectionism, OCD, and anxiety connected with the perfectionism went away. Now, I still, in particular, I like things a certain way. I always joke and say, well, I'm German, so I like it to be done the best way possible. Can't change that. I am a German person. But I was healed in a dramatic way, in a moment, just by God knowing something about me that I didn't understand about myself that I had buried. I share that story because more and more buried things have come up that I have had to work through. And God's been with me through it all, through counseling, through splankna, through formative prayer, through times with me in my journal, through listening to books that trigger memories. And it's a journey. Healing, it's a journey. I am happier and better off than I have ever been. And I know that there's more that I have to discover. And when it comes up, when it pops up, I'll tackle it and I'll heal. It might be hard and uncomfortable, but I'm going to do that. I hope that this short story means something to you. There is healing for trauma, abuse, hurt. We all have it, even when we come from good people. My dad was kind. My mom was kind. My grandma is like the sweetest lady. We all say she's a saint. But I've had people in my family of origin who weren't safe and who I knew I had to tiptoe around and who I knew I had to please. And so my lifelong pattern of safety, protection, has been living in the fawn, placate the angry person, make them happy, do everything you possibly can to prove that you don't deserve the abuse. Try to explain to them that what they're doing to you, it's not really your fault. Maybe they just don't understand. To a place where it's like, gosh, people do crappy things because they're hurt, messed up, selfish, mentally ill. And it's not a reflection of who I am as a person in the way that they treat me. I hope that you understand that the hurts that you've been through are not a reflection of who you are or what you deserved. And it's not an endorsement from God that that person should have done that thing to you. Healing is possible. It is a real thing. For me, I can't imagine having any of the healing and growth that I've had outside of my faith and outside of God. But I do know that counseling, therapy, all of that can help with or without faith. Faith has just anchored me personally. So I hope you will find that hope. And thanks for listening, my friends. Talk to you later.